Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you happen to be watching this. I'm your host, Taylor Bershey, and welcome to Aspire. I'm going to go ahead and address the rather large elephant in the room that you can actually see me now. So yeah, I actually got around to shedding some light on that. But there's actually one additional surprise that I have for you guys, but I'm going to save that one for Gen Y. You'll see. You'll like it. Trust me. But yeah, there's actually some pretty important stuff that I want to talk about today, and it's things that are really important to me. And those are whether or not we should be trying to get earlier detection on autism, and what we should be doing about treatments and all of that. And to start it off, the reason that I have such a negative stance against it is that it operates under the assumption that autism in and of itself is wrong. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but have you really looked around at the world lately? It doesn't look like anybody really has an understanding of what they need to be doing. So I feel like it's a tiny bit arrogant and maybe a little bit narrow-sighted to think that they have the ability to say that autism is not how a person should be. I mean, yes, it does have its defects. It does have things that make it a little bit more difficult to live in the world, but then again, so does everyone else. We all have our shortcomings, and we all have things that we need to work on. So to pigeonhole an entire group of people simply because they have this thing and say, hey, you need to fix that, I don't really agree with that. So as far as the whole thing about treatments go, I feel like maybe we should be a little bit more open-minded to simply the fact that they have a different perspective, that I have a different perspective. And this isn't about me, this is about all of us. And from what I've talked about with other people with autism, many of them share the same view. Yes, we have struggles, but that doesn't mean that we are wrong. I mean, personally, one of my main problems isn't the fact that I have autism, it's the way that I'm perceived with autism. It's the fact that whenever I tell somebody that I have autism, they immediately think that I am defective. And hopefully it's easy to see how that might be a little bit aggravating. So yeah, as far as the whole thing about treatment goes, it's really as simple as just saying everybody has things that they need to work on. And those can be done without drugs and without certain psychiatrists and things like that. We don't need that. Yes, there are certain things that we are unable to do, but the same could be said about everyone else. Can you do what Mr. Olympia does and lift something that's 1,000 pounds? Can you write a symphony? Can you create a new math theorem that no one's ever thought about? No. So everybody has things that they are unable to do. So simply because we are not easily able to communicate with people, that does not make us defective. And I mean, quite personally, considering the way that the world is going and everybody's always texting and Facebooking anyway, I don't understand why it's so important to people that we can't do face-to-face interaction, because nobody does anyway. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. I feel like maybe just being a little bit more open-minded about it, and instead of seeing seeing it as someone with autism, you just see them as a person. And I mean, they have things to work on, and we can do that. But don't say that we need to be fixed. That is the problem that I feel like, the big problem that I feel like there is whenever it comes to autism and multiple other mental illnesses or disorders or conditions, is the way that I prefer to say it, but yeah, you know, umbrella terms and whatnot. Anyways, as far as earlier detection, I kind of think that's a horrible idea. And here's why. Yes, it is so much easier to combat something that you actually know about, something that you know where the shortcomings are, where the strengths are. I get that. I'm not going to say that it's not easier that way. However, whenever you give a kid a scapegoat, like I was reading a paper a couple weeks ago about how they were saying they were wanting to do like between 4 and 6 and stuff like that, and I know that they already do, but they're wanting to do more intensive screening, and I completely disagree with that. The reason being that I personally didn't find out until I was like 17, 18, I can't remember exactly. But I'm glad for that. Because, yes, I grew up not knowing why I was different, but knowing that I was different. And that's completely okay. And I'm glad that I had that opportunity because it allowed me to work on myself under the assumption that the only thing that was wrong with me was that I was just a little bit weird. And now I'm kind of cool with that. So, I mean, like, that's the problem that I also find with it. Whenever you give them a label so early on, it creates so many insecurities, and it's no longer just the fact that they can get to the point of acceptance and growth. They are then self-conscious and they feel like they have to apologize for it, or it becomes a crutch, or even worse, an excuse. And if you don't believe me on that one, you've all had a time whenever your kids were saying something like, "Oh, I'm sick today," and then you're like, "Oh, can you go ahead and take care of that for me?" And they're like, "But mom or dad, I'm sick." And then you're like, "Okay, well, if you're sick, then go ahead and give me all your video games, your TV, and your cell phone, and get some rest because you're sick." And they're like, "Whoa, I'm not that sick." And I see that kind of thing happening. Like, if a kid is in a school and they have autism, but they don't know, they may act out, they get disciplined, they realize that that's not how you're supposed to act. But if they have autism and they know about it, then they act up, they tell the teacher, "Oh, I have autism," and then the teacher, not wanting to get sued and or fired, will then let it go. And then another kid sees that. Oh, well, actually, all the kids see that, but then there's always that one kid. There's always that one kid who's like, "Huh, apparently I can do whatever I want and there are no ramifications as long as I say that I have autism." And that's the problem. And the two main problems that I see coming out of that is that, first of all, you will have a whole lot of people using it as a scapegoat. And second of all, it then creates a lot of negative press for autism, and then it creates ignorance towards autism because there are people faking it and using it in a negative sense to do whatever they want. And then that gets into the media and they're saying autistic kids disruptive in school, autistic kids can't learn, autistic kids are doing this and that and blah blah blah. And it all comes from a misconception that this kid has autism, and they can't really say anything about it until that kid gets tested, and even then the damage has already been done. The new news thing may go out and say, "Oh, well, these kids didn't actually have autism," but it still sticks in the minds of the people who have watched it and maybe missed that or don't want to hear that new research. And autism then becomes disruptive and it becomes a problem. And it's based off of things that are 95% false. So that is a major problem that I see coming from that. And the other side of it is the kids who do have autism, and then they themselves are using it as a scapegoat. And it's a problem because they never try to grow, because they know that they have that crutch. They know that they have a safety net. And as far as a resource for how I believe that that will happen, look at what happened to ADD. I mean, there were so many people that ended up saying that they had ADD and had never been diagnosed with it simply because they knew that they could get away with anything as long as they acted hyperactive and were disruptive, which in fact is not what ADD kids are like. So, I mean, I feel like that could definitely happen, and I don't want that to happen to autism. I don't even want it to have happened to ADD, but like I said, the damage is done. And I feel like it would be a great disservice to all of the people who actually do have it and are trying to make their lives better and are trying to educate people on what autism is. And I don't want that kind of negative press to happen. And so earlier detection, I feel like, would be a huge problem in that, because whenever you give a small kid the ability to get away with things, it becomes a problem. And I know that not all of them will. I'm not saying that every kid is going to press the get out of jail free card, but I feel like it could become a problem, and I don't want to see that happen. Because there's nothing truly wrong with us. We're different, yes. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that it is difficult to be different. I mean, I'm gonna get a little bit real with you. Some might even say too real. But does autism make it hard to live in everyday life in today's society? Yes. Am I sometimes angry that I was born the way that I was, without me being able to do anything about it? Yes. Would I ever give up autism if there was a cure? Absolutely not. Because yes, I'm different, but different is good. Statistically speaking, being different is how the world changes. If everybody stays the same, if we all become the same mold cookie cutter person, nothing will ever change. Everything stagnates and the world becomes worse for it. And I'm not saying that autism is like the new vanguard of a great enlightenment or anything like that. I'm just saying that if the world wants to progress, we have to get to the point where we accept different perspectives and accept different behaviors, as long as we also try to push the fact that we all need to be working on our flaws. I mean, let he who is without issues cast the first stone. So yeah, that's basically my ideas on all of that. I mean, take it for what you will. But, so yeah. Yeah, I never know how to end these things. But, so yeah, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a comment and just suggest something that you would like to have talked about. Or go ahead and share this on any of your social media and help this channel grow, because I'm wanting to build a community on YouTube for people who have autism so that they don't have to feel so alone. And I need your guys' help to do that, because I know a lot of you either have siblings, children, cousins, or somebody that you know, just a friend who has autism. And I want to make a place for them to go to on YouTube to where they can all communicate with each other in a way that is comfortable. Because we may not be great in by social standards or in regular life, but whenever it comes to the internet, that was one of the most beautiful inventions, in my opinion, for people like me. Because I get to express my opinions to a lot of people while talking to a camera. And that is absolutely perfect for me. So, thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and as I said, if you're feeling ever so gracious, please share this on your social media. And all of you have a fantastic day.